Hi everyone, I'm Megan and welcome back to another lab video for Analytics and Decision Sciences 1493 Professional Analytics. In this lab, I will be investigating subs, functions, and event procedures with a main focus on arguments. This is part 1 of 3 videos related to subs, functions, and event procedures, so I recommend that you watch part 2 and 3 after this video to get a full understanding of the material. I base this material presented today on VBA for Modelers, the 5th edition by Christian Albright, and Ivey case 9B11E027 by Wei Zia, which you can find on Ivey Publishing through the link provided below. Please open Excel and follow along as we get started.
Subs, functions, and event procedures are a set of commands that perform a specific task in VBA code. They can consist of a single sub or a combination of multiple subs, functions, and event procedures. A sub can do multiple things. It can automate tasks, do formatting for you, it can run functions, and various other things. So it's a very useful tool to have. Functions, they give you a value as an output. And events, they are also a sub in VBA, and it runs when a corresponding event occurs. So now you're probably wondering, why should we use subs or functions? They are reusable, which can make tedious tasks that are repetitively done completed much quicker just by the click of a button. They can also be used for when you write a formula within a cell. If you need this on other sheets, it's possible that there is a little bit of user error when copying and pasting this. So by writing your own function, we can eliminate some of that user error. Creating multiple subs also allows for us to improve the clarity of code, allowing us to debug the code easier and maintain it. Some subs and functions also allow for the code to be easier for others to understand. Before we talk about subs and functions, we should first dive into arguments. So arguments are parameters that are used to pass information that's declared at the beginning of subs or functions. So the sub calls the parameters or arguments, which are used as variables inside of the procedure. So I'm going to give you a quick example as to how we can do this for both subs and functions. So first, with a sub, we are going to name this the squared sum, and then we're going to have 3 arguments, which we're going to put in parentheses here. So we're going to have x as an integer, y as an integer, and then z as an integer. So what we're going to do within this sub is we are going to create a message box with the output of x squared plus y squared plus z squared. So we're going to write MSG box x, and then we're going to use a little up arrow, squared plus y squared plus z squared. So when we want to run this, we can go down to the immediate window and write call squared sum, and then we're going to have the value of x is equal to 1, the value of y is equal to 1, and the value of z is equal to 1. So if we were just to try and run this message box or this sub, we would see that we are getting a problem. It won't run. And that's because we haven't declared what x is, what y is, or what z is. So when we go down here to the immediate window and we run call squared sum 111, we can see that we get the message box with the output of 3. So then we can change z to, let's go with 10, and run that. And now you can see we get an output of 102. So that's how we use arguments with a sub procedure, and we can also do this with a function. So I'm going to create a function now, and instead of using sub, we're going to use the word function, and then we're going to call this squared sum2, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to declare the arguments in parentheses. So we have x as integer, y as integer, and z as integer. So within the function, what we need to do is we need to set whatever we want the output to be equal to the function name. So our function name is squared sum2, so we're going to write squared sum2 and set this equal to the output, which is going to be x squared plus y squared plus z squared, which I'm just going to copy and paste. So now if we want to run this function, we can either run it within a sub or we can run it in a cell. So I'm going to run it in a cell. So what we're going to do is we're going to navigate back to our workbook, and we can just, in cell A1, we can write equals squared sum, and you can see that it pops up here. So then we can write whatever we want our variables to be. So if we do x is equal to 1, we'll do y is equal to 2, and z is equal to 3. When we run this, we expect to get 1 squared plus 2 squared plus 3 squared, which is going to be 1 plus 4 plus 9, so we should get 14, which is the value that we get. So arguments are optional in subs and functions, and my personal preference is to use them in functions and define the variables that I need within sub procedures. So when needed, arguments can be called in two different ways. We can use ByVal and ByRef. ByVal means that an argument is passed by its value only. Therefore, if we are calling a sub within another sub, and the sub we are calling has a ByVal argument, it means that if we change the value of, say, x in the sub we are calling, when we go back to the original sub, it's not going to be the changed value. So I understand that that can be a little confusing, so we're going to do an example of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to declare x as a public integer value, or variable, sorry, and then we are going to create a sub where we set x to a specific value, and then we're going to run a modified version of squared sum where we can print the results of x to see what happens outside when we are using ByVal. So first what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete our example from last time, and then I'm going to open up Visual Basics. So I'm just going to move all of this down, and I'm going to start by declaring a public variable, and it's going to be x as integer. So now I'm going to create our test sub procedure, and I'm not going to put anything in it yet, and then I'm going to create our squared sum 3, which is going to be a modified version of squared sum. So what we're going to do is we are going to write ByVal x as integer. So what we're doing is we are only changing x by the value. Therefore, if we change it inside of squared sum when we call it in test, it should stay as the original value we have in test. So I'll get into that a little bit more. And then we're also going to have y as an integer and z as an integer. So what we're going to do is we are going to let result equal our x squared plus y squared plus z squared. And what we're going to do is we are going to set the value of a1 equal to result. So this value in a1 is going to give the same value as the message box inside of squared sum. So next what we're going to do is in cell A2, we are just going to print the value of x and then we are going to change the value of x, and we're going to change that to 10, and then in cell A3, we are going to print the new value of x, and then that is all we're going to have for squared sum 3. So in our test sub, what we're going to do is we're first going to declare x equal to 3. So this is what we expect when we call the squared sum. We are going to expect x to be equal to 3 here, and then it's going to change down here. So the next step here is to call squared sum. So to do that, we are going to do squared sum 3, and then we are going to ByVal x as integer, so we're just going to keep that as x, and then we can set values for y and z. So we will do that as y is equal to 1, z is equal to 2. And then the next thing we are going to do, oh, it doesn't like something that I did here. Okay, we'll do this instead. It's probably because I didn't use the call statement in front of that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to let the value of A4 be equal to x. So what we're interested in is seeing what the value of A4 is. So is it going to be equal to 10 after we change it, or is it going to stay as 3? So what we're going to do is we're going to run the test sub line by line to see what happens. So first we're setting x equal to 3, and now we're running squared sum 3. So we're going to jump to that next sub, and then we are setting the result equal to x squared plus y squared plus z squared, changing the value of A1, which we are going to be able to see over in the left part of the screen here, which changes to 14, and then we're going to set A2 to x, which as of right now should be 3 because we haven't changed it yet. And now we're setting x equal to 10, and then we're setting the value of A3 equal to x. So this is 10. So now we're going to navigate up to the test sub again and set A4 equal to x. So this is what we're interested in. Is this going to be 3 or is it going to be 10? So when we run that, we can see that in cell A4 we get a value of 3. And this is because the change of x equal to 10 does not apply anymore, since we are outside of the squared sum sub, and we are using the ByVal in front of our argument. So what we can do is we can copy this and see what happens if we use ByRef instead of ByVal. So I'm just going to delete everything in column A here, and then we'll go back to Visual Basics. So what we're going to do is we're going to change ByVal to ByRef. So what we're interested again is this last range A4 value. So we want to see if this x is going to be equal to 3 or 10 when we use ByRef in our arguments. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to go line by line through the test sub. So first we're setting x equal to 3, and now we're running the squared sum 3 sub. So same thing as before, we have the result, and then in cell A1 we are setting the value to result, and then in A2 we are setting the value to x, which at this moment is still 3. So now we're changing x equal to 10 and setting that to the cell A3, which we can see is 10. So now this is going to be the interesting part. We want to see what happens in A4. So is this value going to be 3 or 10 when we are using ByRef? So ByRef means that an argument is passed by reference. Therefore, the value of the argument will change in all subs if it's changed in a sub that uses the ByRef. So, since x is changed, in the squared sum, which uses ByRef, we should expect that the value in cell A4 is going to be equal to 10 and not 3. So when we run this, we can see that over in cell A4, we get a value of 10 compared to in cell B4, which is the values for when we use the ByVal argument, we get a value of 3. So that's the difference between the two. Is ByRef, when we change it, the reference changes as well, but when we use ByVal, it only changes within the sub that contains the ByVal, not the other one.
Those were 2 examples on how to pass arguments in subs and functions. I hope the material presented was useful when using VBA for decision modeling. Please check out part 2 of this video where I investigate the scope of subs and functions and give some examples for creating your own. If you liked this video, please leave a comment and a like, as well as subscribe to our channel. We have more content related to VBA for decision modeling in our playlist, so if you're interested in more videos, check it out. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!